Welcome to episode 416 of Hot Media with Bob Mann. Every week on this program, we talk about the hottest issues and hottest content in the media. And I love award season because it provides us with the opportunity to talk about hot content and so many of the issues that come with the content within the movies. And the SAG Awards are coming up very soon. I'm a member of SAG-AFTRA, so I'm getting some screeners and get the opportunity to vote. But for most of the audience, the real concern are Oscar nominations. Concern. I guess we're not too concerned about it, but the most interest. And some of these movies are fairly interesting on their own, regardless of whether or not they're considered Oscar bait or whether they're contenders or should be in there or films that were snubbed. Some of the films we're going to discuss today, and we're not going to discuss all of them, are very interesting in terms of content, theme, and message. So that's what's going on this episode of Hot Media. Let me introduce my guests who are here whenever we talk about movies. And of course, you know that we talk about politics and news and sports in a media context on this show. But let me just introduce the two guests here, Ryan Rolandelli and Chris Mann-Nelson. And Ryan, who, for those of you watching the video version, is down at the bottom of your screen. The names are attached. Ryan is a finishing editor at a production house in New York City. And Chris Mann-Nelson is the host of the Movie Quiz, which is an online movie quiz show, which is preparing now its next season. Thank you guys for taking the time out to be here on the program. First of all, Chris, you made a comment just before we were getting started about these movies are a crop of very different movies. There's the so-called Oscar bait, the very serious movie. There are very often box office hits. But these movies are a real mixed bag of different themes and unique styles.
Yeah, it's the first time ever that two sequels have been nominated in the same year. Only a small handful of sequels have been nominated in the nearly 100 years of the Oscars, just like Lord of the Rings and Godfather and a couple others. So yeah, it's kind of some big populist ones like Top Gun, and then also some weirder ones like even though it's a front runner, it's still kind of like a odd, interesting, quirky movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So not just because I was disappointed after the first couple years after they expanded to 10, that first, because they did that as a move to like include Inception and Up and District 9, and then it just kind of devolved in the 2010s into like 5 more Oscar bait movies that you're gonna that are 2 hours and 45 minutes, and you're gonna have to slog through them if
Deep,
you
deep
want
and ponderous, right? Some of them.
exactly.
Yeah, a lot of art house films, some of which were great and some of which were, well, long and boring. So it is an interesting mix, but let's talk about some of them in particular. Ryan, Tar is a very interesting movie. And of course, we're not going to give people spoilers, but Tar is a film with Cate Blanchett, which can be taken on many levels. Literal, okay, this is what's really happening to this famous female classical music conductor who is in this fictional world, the conductor of the Berlin Symphony. And then are these things just going on in this person's head? Are these allegories? Talk a little bit about the idea that Tar can be looked at on a lot of different levels.
Yeah, I was really psyched to see this movie, and it did not disappoint me. I'm a huge fan of Cate Blanchett, and it's been a while since we saw Todd Field's coming back to direct, so I was looking forward to this one. And the easiest way without spoiling it that I explained it to people was it's somewhat of a more grounded, more linear version of Black Swan. Talented, powerful, artistic woman hitting like the height of their career. Something big is about to happen to them, and for better or worse, things just start crumbling down. And yes, like you said, the third act, not sure if it actually is or not, and it's up to us to interpret that. So Tar was like a little half, maybe first half a little Oscar bait, but by the time the third act hit and it ended, it kept me thinking about it for a few days, which is always good.
What is interesting, and I'll ask Chris to jump back in here on this and ask both of you guys what you think about this. Lydia Tarr, who is the title character, she is a person who is abusing her power, clearly for sexual relationships, strictly for the sake of power, manipulating one person against the other. She, even though she is female, she makes Kevin Spacey look really, really mild by comparison.
Yeah.
Yet at the same time, she's the victim of some real manipulation on social media and a class that she had at Juilliard, which was edited completely out of context, which as a professor, I think could happen to me or to anybody. Is this film about a cancel culture gone too far, or is this about a society where Me Too just hasn't caught everybody yet, and there are people who still have to pay?
I think there's unfortunately there's always going to be people that have to pay, and in this movie, Lydia Tarr is one of them. I'm not sure that I saw that coming at that point in the movie when it happens, but you can see everything is, like I said, crumbling around her, whether it's literal or not. And when anyone sees that happening to someone, they can not sympathize, but they can understand. Oh wow, they got her. The students got her. She shouldn't have said that, and it kind of was start of her downfall.
Right. But Chris, do you feel that a movie can be kind of two things at once? Do you think it can be a repudiation of cancel culture, but at the same time be talking about people in power who have gone too far and need to answer? It almost seems as if they're coming from that would be coming from antithetical political points of view. Oh, I know where Chris is right now. Chris is taking care of his daughter, my granddaughter, who must be crying at this point. So Ryan, you are definitely on the hook. So let me ask you that question then.
Yes.
Can a movie come from the seeming, and maybe I'm misinterpreting, maybe it's not coming at all from a put down of the cancel culture, but can a movie come from two antithetical political points of view? And is
Yeah,
this
I
movie
think.
doing that?
Yeah, I think with Tar, especially the first half, you want to root for her up and coming. Well, she's already up and coming. She's a very powerful woman who's about to have this breakthrough in her career, and you're rooting for her. But as the movie goes on, you can see she's at fault for some things, and then it keeps on snowballing from there. So that is the kind of the height and the downfall for her. Where it could be about two things. The movie did play on itself. There was a lot of contradicting plot points in the movie, which made it interesting.
Everything, everywhere, all at once. If you had to say, okay, what we have a course at Caldwell University where you're an alum, and I'm a professor. We had have a course called Film Genres. Can you name, if you had to pin down one genre that this movie is in, is there one? Is there even a dominant one?
Family? Would that even be a family film, possibly? Yeah, you don't want to say sci-fi. You don't want to say any few keywords that may turn off people seeing it because everyone should. It was an exceptional film, and I do think it will.
Is it a martial arts movie? Is it a martial? I mean, it's Michelle Yeoh.
Keep the genres coming. It's everything.
Yeah.
The movie is quite literally everything, everywhere.
Right. Maybe that's part of, the whole idea that it's everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
For people who haven't seen it, we're not giving any spoilers here because this is the premise. What is the idea of the same person living in different universes? Ryan, what exactly is
I guess
the setup?
always that romantic idea that there could be a better version of yourself out there somewhere, doing something better than you're doing now. A different path you want to go down. That if you like to think that way, then yeah, you are out there doing something else and something better.
Yeah,
Well, there were a few worse versions too
Yeah.
of her Evelyn character too. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, and just how kind of where you are in your life is sort of just the sum total of your choices, both big and small. Like I love the first time she's introduced to it is like just he sets up like Wayman sets up like a little pocket dimension for her basically by just telling her that she could go left or go right coming out of the elevator. So like even just like the tiniest things and they compound over your choices compound over time.
Yeah, if you go to the IRS officer or if you go to the janitor's closet, you're going to have a totally different life. And that was absolutely fascinating. It is also very interesting to see Short Round nominated for an Oscar, Chris.
My God.
Indy, cover your heart.
I really hope I'm hoping that he shows up in the new Indiana Jones movie. Just shoehorn him in there somewhere. Now that
Just
he's
to say no
back.
time for love, Dr. Jones.
I know.
We all know it's him now at this point.
He doesn't want to disappear now, so yeah, he'll take that offer. I'm sure if it's on the table.
He's got to make hay.
Well, it is when you stepped out, and is Clara back to sleep?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll find out.
Figure out.
Look,
I guess it was pretty
when
clear.
I ask you a question and I look at the empty box on the screen, I'll know that she started crying again. But when you see a movie like this that jumps around in genres, I had asked Ryan, can you pick a genre of what it actually is? I'll ask you the same question. Is it a martial arts movie, a comedy, a drama? Something
honestly,
so
I honestly think that it's there in the title. It is truly, it's like, it is everything. It's like every movie. Now I'm not quite as.
That's exactly what Ryan said when you were out. You know?
My God, yeah,
that's exactly what he said.
It really is though.
Out.
I'm not like I thought it probably my favorite of the ones I've seen so far. Overall, it's a little too long, which is usually my complaint. It's overstays its welcome ever so slightly, but it's still I don't know. It's worth it to see something so different achieve both commercial and award season success.
I just want to go back to one thing, Ryan, about Tar, and that the director, screenwriter made a choice to open up with closing credits. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, why are they opening with closing credits? And I know that decades ago they did that anyway. But, you know, Key Grips and Best Boys and all of these very arcane titles in the film industry. And as a person who works as an editor, did you find out, because I actually researched it and found out why he did that, why it opens with the ending credits?
I did not research that. I remember when that happened, I was actually rented it at home and thought if I was in the theaters, this would have felt a lot longer. I definitely just interpret it as like you said, old school movie thing, maybe even a little bit pretentious filmmaking. But when you have them, when it's front loaded like that, and then the movie ends so powerfully as it did, and then you just get to walk out of the theater or turn off your TV, it's a little more, it just hits you a little more, because then the story just ends and you're left with like the last thing you had in your head, and it's not scrolling credits anymore. It's, you know, the last shot of the movie. But I didn't know any other reason.
Do you have a theory as to why that happened? I actually looked up and got the.
I didn't realize there was that Todd Field had said that there was like an objective reason. I mean, I had read on Reddit somebody's interpretation that I liked, which was that by front loading the movie with everybody who worked on the movie, you know, all the way down to assistants and catering it, because it takes everybody. A movie can't happen without everybody who works on it. That it's not just that, it's like underscoring the idea that a large piece of art like that is not just the work of a director or a composer or an actress, even with a you know, such a powerful acclaimed performance that as Blanchett gave, that the movie is from everybody, just like an orchestra is not just tar, it's the oboist, it's the, you know, it's the guy who just hits the triangle for one, you know, it's like all of it is part of the soup, and it takes everybody.
That's the answer. It's because of the fact, let's put the people in order, in kind of a reverse order, and you're going to read all their names. By the way, the font is ridiculously small, so
it is really small. Yeah,
because
I think
movie's 238 as it is, and it would be even worse if I guess it was, you know, full.
Right. Yeah, scrolling forever.
Close scroll. But that makes so much sense.
Everywhere. Sorry. And thinking everywhere all at once, they started the end credits with the PAs, which is good to see. So there's some of that going around this year, and as someone who has their name very low in the credits, that is cool to see sometimes.
I have a friend who doesn't like, why do they have credits? I said, I wouldn't want to work for you because you don't send credit to other people. You know, would you like to go in the office by yourself? And so, you know, it's very interesting. You guys didn't see The Whale, but Brendan Fraser was just unbelievable in it as an adjunct, meaning a part-timer instructor of online college courses. Now, this was written as a play a long time ago, but this had the real traditional Google Meet or Zoom look. And
Mm.
it really did capture something that's so true from whenever you teach remotely, which now that I hurt my arm, I'm teaching a few remote classes again. I feel like I'm back in COVID. And sometimes students are there, but very often, you find them driving or they're walking. Oh no, I've had many a student answer a question from the Garden State Parkway. And yeah, and then some guy put something into the chat that was only meant for somebody else, but it went out to everybody criticizing him. But you feel so much for Brendan Fraser, and apparently his character is supposed to be 600 pounds, and he wasn't always that way. There were many things that drove him to this. Is a strange relationship, but you feel for him. But what's really good is he's not just an object of pity. He's done some really crappy things in his life. Not bad, he didn't kill anybody, but in relationships and in parenthood, there are things that he certainly could have done very differently. He's been a victim, but a perpetrator as well. And his performance, I haven't seen everything yet. I haven't looked through all my screeners. But it really is absolutely fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about the Fabelmans. I mean, it's a movie about movies. Have you guys seen that yet?
I surprisingly
Uh,
haven't seen it yet.
yeah.
As big of I did a whole Spielberg game a couple months ago, but I haven't seen it yet. I want to because it's Spielberg and I love Spielberg. But Ryan, I know you saw it.
I did. We actually just saw it this past weekend. We saw it in theaters because the cinematographer Janusz Kaminski is one of my favorites, and I'll always see his work on the big screen when I can. But I don't think the Fablemans was for me, as I like to say. Very well made, of course, and it's a good screenplay from him and Kushner. But my first reaction walking out of it was, who told Spielberg his life was so interesting? It was just very plain, straight to the point, very linear. And I know Michelle Williams was getting a lot of praise, but she seemed to just be, as I like to say, playing to the balcony. She was playing like she was on stage, whether not like the camera was in her face the entire time. Just some things like that I didn't like, but very well made. And I don't know what's going to happen with Best Director. I do kind of see him winning his third, but I don't know if the guys from Everything Everywhere will take that as well.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, because I mean, they do like to do those sort of legacy handouts. Sometimes it's not always, it feels like the Academy sometimes votes on like how they feel they should vote as
Yeah.
opposed to what they really liked. And there has been I remember when I was like a kid and a young adult, it felt like director and picture always went hand in hand. Like in the 80s and 90s, even into the 2000s, it was like, oh, director went to James Cameron, we know Titanic's going to win, or like it went to,
Mm.
then it started to split like more in like the late 2000s, and lately you get a lot more split between director and best picture. And that might also be by virtue of the fact that there's 8 to 10 picture nominees, but only 5 director
Yeah.
spots.
Yeah. And, it's always been considered a director's medium, but maybe that's less so. Maybe there's more of the sense of the front end of
Taking it
talk.
as a whole, yeah,
Yeah.
taking the
Such a
film as a whole
collaboration.
as opposed to, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the fact that for years, when there were only 5 Best Picture nominees, that you really left out what was popular. The People's Choice Awards and the Oscars were never going to go hand in hand. I guess this year's nod to people's popular taste would be Top Gun. What would you
Yeah,
guys have to say about that? Is that just a nod to the People's Choice, or is that just, hey, that was an amazing, exciting movie?
I think
I
that
think
at a certain point, it feels like they did this with Black Panther too a few years back. It's like if a movie makes $700 million, they feel like they can't ignore it. Like, like if it makes like so much money, although Dark Knight didn't get nominated for best. Well, that was pre 10. That was
Right.
the
Yeah.
last year of 5.
It does make them seem out of touch, they wanna be
Oh, for
so,
sure.
democratic with a small d, but, it's like, "No, no, it's not good enough for us. It's
The
good
thing
enough
that
for
I
you."
keep relating it to, Top Gun being nominated, obviously one of the most successful films of the year, if not the most successful film. I think Avatar ended up making more. Um, it goes back to like when they nominated Mad Max for Best Picture. Some just great large scale practical filmmaking, another sequel, but insanely popular, and it ended up being nominated as well as it should have been. I think it was like an easy choice, and I didn't see a way that this was going to be left off the list. I was obviously glad that it was.
Yeah, I am glad to see them though, because that was, like I said earlier, that I think they explicitly said in 2010 that like that was the reason they were expanding it, was to like, I have the list here for the first year that they expanded. It was The Hurt Locker, Avatar, The Blind Side, District 9, Inglorious Bastards, An Education, Precious, A Serious Man, Up, and Up in the Air. And then the next year, like Toy Story 3 was in there, Inception was in there, True Grit. So there's like, but then it like by like 2017 it had kind of slipped into just like constant,
Oscar bait.
just all time, all, yeah, just twice
Yeah.
the amount of Oscar bait. So yeah, for whatever reason, I'm glad. Avatar, I don't know if it's because it's that good or because Cameron has such a track record that they're like, well, we nominated the last Avatar, so we'll do it again. Kind of like, Spielberg and the Fabelmans. It's like, well, it's Spielberg, so he should be there.
It's Spielberg on Spielberg. How do we not?
Exactly. It's Spielberg talking about making movies. We love eat it up.
But he is Sammy Fabelman. He isn't Steven Spielberg in it, but it's so, I mean, it's his life, and he's very honest about his parents.
It's very rare that someone would make like their own, like their straight up own biopic.
Well, they came close.
Unless you're Jackie Robinson or Howard Stern, it's usually thinly veiled.
Well, I did love the opening scene though, where he's so afraid of going to the movie because the pictures are so big, and they go, "It's a circus picture. You'll love it. It's clowns. You'll have a big smile," and it cuts. And I guess when I was a little kid, I did see The Greatest Show on Earth, but it's a armed robbery and a head on with a train coming, and he's like looking in horror, and they're just driving home, and the father goes, "I told you with his being NERVOUS that he wouldn't like this." But then what he did was he immediately on the father's camera recreated with his Lionel trains the train crash. Well, we've gone through a lot of them, and we'll have another episode before the Oscars and go through more, because I think a lot of these movies stand alone in terms of being worth an episode of analysis. One of the problems is, of course, you can't really do total analysis when you can't give people the endings, and it would be really rotten to have spoiler alerts on a podcast.
Yeah, it's hard to dig into Tar without spoiling it.
Oh, gee, thanks, guys. Thanks for telling me that's what happened with the
exactly.
reaction.
No, no spoilers here.
Well, before we go off, Chris, just tell us about what the movie quiz is. And I know it's in a hiatus between seasons, as you always take a break. But when it comes
sure. It's a live interactive game show / talk show where guests come on and you can play from home in real time with along with teammates if you want, and it's all movie based. And we're going to come back on March 8th with an Oscar themed show, and then you can actually get bonus points by logging your Oscar picks for 2023, which I will then update as the ceremony goes on that Sunday night. So yeah, if you just go to themoviequiz.com, it'll take you where you need to go if you want to play along. We play a 8-week season with cumulative scores. So yeah, at least one more season coming starting March 8th.
And there is one team that just keeps on winning. Let's see. What's the name of that?
Not us anymore, man. There's some heavy hitters.
Is
Yeah,
that
there are.
Some
somebody
heavy
else named
hitters in
Roland?
there.
Is that
I'm
somebody
glad we
else
got
named
the-
Rolandelli in there? It's not a common name. It's not you. I can't imagine. Ryan, are you allowed to tell what projects you're working on, or is that heavy?
No,
non-disclosure.
yeah, heavily. Yes, exactly. No, we're very busy over here. We got some new TV shows coming out for some certain streaming services and other channels. So yeah, we're always busy here.
Okay, and you've already won an award for giving us the best, most professional background of anybody who has been on since we've gone to video here on.
Yeah, you have no idea what's on either side of this, but yeah, from this angle, everything looks good.
All that matters is what's right there in the shot, because
You got to frame it right. Yep.
Over there is Desmond's rocking horse. So you
Yeah,
just
look, it's just like stuff.
I'm going to claim my broken arm as a reason why I can't turn my camera. That's why I'm not turning it. And the only reason. Ryan Rolandelli, Chris Mann-Nelson, always here when we talk about movies. Thank you so very much. I just want to remind everybody that Hot Media is primarily an audio podcast, but we do very often go on YouTube, as we are with this episode. And I just ask you to go to the website, which is www.bobmanhotmedia.com. That's Bobman, BOBMANN. And I would have actually put that up there if I could operate a mouse with my left hand, but I'm not adjusting to that quite so well yet. But we do. Whoa, there it is. I can actually do that. Wow. I'm ambidextrous. And we hope you do listen to us every week. We talk about a wide variety of things in media, movies, just one thing, television shows, news, journalism, coverage of what's going on, and sports. And thank you for joining us every week right here on Hot Media. Please watch, please listen, and above all, please subscribe. Thank you.